Hey peeps, welcome back to the channel. Y'all remember back on April 29, 2026, the Supreme Court was reviewing a case called Louisiana versus Callais. Once they reviewed that case, they handed down a decision that heavily restricted Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. They voted 6-3 along party lines. Do y'all remember that? And once that decision was made public, handed down, red Republican states immediately started redistricting their voting maps so that they could dilute Black political representation. Y'all remember that? I don't know what they thought was going to be the response to that, but clearly they are realizing now that Black people, you may succeed in diluting the Black representation that Black people have in these red states, but you doing that is going to make Black people angry, and you don't want to make Black people angry. What did they think was going to happen? Because when they did that, this is actually what happened.
I want to point out something going on specifically about Black political power that I think Republicans did not expect. Because Republicans all over the country this year have taken the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court's dismantling of the Voting Rights Act, and they have used it to start a radical effort to constrict Black voting power in the United States of America.
Yep.
In state after state, Republicans have been engaged in redrawing congressional districts, not just to entrench themselves in power, but specifically to take power away from minority voters and Black voters in particular.
Yep.
Well, in response to that, we are now seeing in state after state that people have something to say about that too. Take South Carolina. Earlier this year, Republican legislators in South Carolina, they were steaming ahead with a plan to dissolve the state's only majority Black district, the seat held by the state's only Black congressman, James Clyburn. That effort to box out James Clyburn drew protests, but it also drew voters in numbers that alarmed South Carolina Republicans. The first day of early voting in the South Carolina primary saw record-breaking turnout. Nearly 5 times more Democrats than Republicans cast ballots. Many of them said they were out at the polls to send a message, specifically to try to stop the redistricting plan to take away Clyburn's seat. And guess what happened next? That very same day, that first day of early voting, South Carolina Republicans got scared and scrapped their plan. The Republican state Senate leader warned his colleagues, quote, "People will vote when they're angry, and I think we've made some people mad."
You better believe it. You better believe that you made some people mad. Yeah. And it ain't over. Just because you all have pulled back, it's not over.
South Carolina. Also take a look at Georgia. Republicans in Georgia tried the same thing, tried drawing up new congressional districts to entrench themselves and to dilute and thereby deny Black political power in the state of Georgia. As soon as the U.S. Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act, Georgia's governor called a special legislative session to redraw the state's maps. Well, when lawmakers arrived at the Capitol for that special session, this is what they were greeted with. The state capitol packed to the gills with protesters who let the lawmakers know just what the people of Georgia thought about this plan. Georgia Republicans looked up at the balcony, looked up at the gallery, looked around them, looked at the fury they were about to unleash and said, okay, never mind. On second thought, maybe we will not try to redraw our maps to make our congressional delegation whiter and more permanent. Seems like that might be wildly unpopular. Now look at Tennessee. Tennessee is one of the southern states where Republicans did carry out their plan to dilute Black political power. They broke up the state's single majority black district around Memphis, spreading black voters out into more rural, more conservative, whiter districts that stretch hundreds of miles from the city. And after the Republicans did that, then they decided that, well, then they realized they were going to have to learn what the people of Tennessee thought about it.
Yep.
Black leaders in Memphis in particular got to work. Pastors and organizers and activists and civic groups and unions held voter registration drives, organized rallies, worked the phones, knocked on doors, all in an effort to channel their neighbors' indignation and anger into action. In Memphis, the Reverend Earl Fisher of the Abyssinian Missionary Baptist Church said, quote, "I think in a lot of ways, this awoke a sleeping giant. I don't think Republicans have anticipated or accounted for a mass mobilization effort." Well, sure enough, when Tennessee held its primary a few days ago on Thursday, Democratic voter turnout in Memphis's majority black Shelby County surged to the highest level in a decade, more than double the turnout percentage for similar contests that were held just 2 years ago. The next day, Reverend Fisher told the Washington Post, quote, a night like last night lets you know it's not all in vain. Though he said he's not taking a victory lap. Black Tennessee Democrats will be up against long odds in November, these newly drawn congressional districts. But last week's turnout is a big first step and one that is rattling Republicans in Tennessee.
This is what happens when you have a bunch of white men who are in this bubble. They're only surrounded by each other. And what surrounds them is privilege, entitlement, and arrogance. To think that they are going to make these moves to try to silence the voices of Black people and to reduce the Black representation for Black people, to think that they were going to be able to do that and not have to face any type of repercussions is beyond me. That little white privileged, white arrogant, white entitlement bubble will be their downfall. Black people, November will soon be here. We're not done. We're just in the primaries. November will soon be here. And we need to speak louder than ever come November. Make your plans, do what you need to do to make sure you and your people are in that voting booth. Point blank, the end.